Hey fellow YouTubers, this is N0AGI. I'm here to do the part 2 of our APRS Remote Control project. This is the Tnc Pi, the kit I got from Coastal Chipworks. This is my second Tnc Pi, and the first one is used in applications such as MN-ORBS, Minnesota ORBS. So look that up on APRS.fi. That project uses my first Tnc Pi, and this is a second one here. So my goal is to get this assembled today and tested, and also get maybe my the interface cable between the Bofang radio and the Tnc Pi completed today, and then that should take care of the front end of the business side of the project. So anyway, so let me get this opened up, and I'll get this assembled. I believe there's at least 1 or 2 videos on YouTube that show you how to solder this thing together, but I'm not going to spend time on showing you that. I'll quickly assemble this, show you the assembled version of it, and then move on. So, well, let's get this started, and I'll be right back. So this is the previous one. I believe this is the very first version of the Tnc Pi. As you can tell, the board is the board itself is it's got sharp edges. The newer board is far more modern looking. The parts themselves, especially the ceramic caps, they are much newer, and the original version had slightly old school style caps in them, and but outside of that, it's fairly seems like a fairly one-to-one match with the with parts. And one thing I don't see in my box here are these jumpers. I don't see them in my packet here, so I need to see if I'm missing those or if they're not required or what. The manual has a pretty good documentation on how to solder this thing together, because the box itself doesn't come with any manual, which is fine. I think their documentation is very good on their website. Alright, so I got the first oscillator portion of the circuit going here. So let me get that soldered in place, and then I'll move up and then get the larger components soldered. So I like to keep my continuity tester portion ready, and of course the cap tester, and let's get going, and I'll be right back. So I just completed the 0.1 μF caps, so I'll get going with the other ones. Okay, so I got the Tnc Pi 2 assembled. The Tnc Pi 2 doesn't have those jumpers I was telling you about, and the Q1 is a new component for Tnc Pi 2. I believe that's a regulator. Q5, I believe that's memory. Let me double check. Yeah, that's memory PIC. Sorry, that's memory. That's PIC, a microprocessor. That's a modem chip, and that I believe that's the op amp. But anyway, so that's done. I now need to build out the DB9 to Bofang radio interface cable, and I'll get that done and do a quick test and then calibrate with these pots here, and I think we should be set to go. And then I need to work on the relay, the simple relay circuit between Raspberry Pi and one of these GPIO pins and the relay. All right, okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I realized I actually have a cable from Tnc Pi to this Bofang radio. I believe I made this, must have been about 2 years ago. It was just lying in a box somewhere, so I pulled it out. I hope it's working. I need to test that. But if this doesn't work, then I'll have to go and make another one. But what I'll do is I'll make sure I post a link to the pinout diagram for this for making this cable if you are interested. What I did was I put some Velcro tape in the back by the DB9 section, so that when we install this to write on top of the Raspberry Pi, it doesn't short itself on these on this section here. So that's that. And what I'm gonna do is actually let me mount this on top of this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got this mounted on top of Raspberry Pi, and the cable is hooked up to the Bofang radio. Bofang is tuned up to 14439, obviously. And because I'm sitting in my lab, I don't think this radio will receive any APRS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my FT1D to transmit APRS messages and see if this guy receives it, number one, and then more importantly, that the cable is working and that I'm able to see a reception come through on the Tnc Pi. When the reception comes through and Tnc Pi is able to parse it, this yellow LED would glow. And I still have to do some calibration using these two pots here. And then I need to, while for version 1.0 the transmit portion is not going to be used, I still want to test the transmit works fine through APRX software. So looks like it's coming together. I just need to make sure that it's calibrated, that at least the reception is coming through to Tnc Pi, and then we'll move on to the next steps. So with that preface, what I'm going to do is I have, let's switch over to these are pre-existing test messages I had sent for the N0AGI project from my previous videos. But so let's see if I can transmit, and I'm trying to see if I can okay, first of all I want to test that Bofang is receiving, and when it receives, that LED glows, so I don't think that should be an issue. Let's Yep, so the Bofang is receiving just fine. Now we need to figure out if the Tnc Pi is receiving the packet. Yep, so the Tnc Pi seems to be working, which means the cable is working. That's good news. Saves me about half hour, 45 if I were to remake that. Alright, so now the next big step is for me to calibrate and make sure that it's the pots are properly tuned, and we'll move on to the relay circuit, and that'll probably be my next part number 3. But for now, I'm going to work on getting this calibrated, and looks like we're making some good progress. Now the GPIO pins, I'll tap into one of these GPIO pins, and if you guys don't have this already, I bet you guys have a copy of this, but if not, I have this pinout diagram for my Raspberry Pi, and it's very handy. I use it quite a bit, and it's just available, readily available with me. I use that. I use the resistor color chart and the inductor chart, etc. So those are just for reference. So I thought it might be valuable to show quickly the calibration of the Tnc Pi. There's really two parts here, the R7 and R6. I believe R7 is the transmit power, and it's really to adjust the audio for transmit, and R6 is for the transmit delay. So let's work on the transmit audio. What they recommend is you need two radios. This guy here will be tuned into the same frequency as the Bofang radio. In this case, both are tuned into 14439. Obviously, Bofang is connected up to the Tnc Pi, and this is used just for monitoring purposes. Now, what they recommend we do is we key up the Bofang radio, or whichever the radio that's connected to your Tnc Pi, and when you key up, it emits a tone, and that tone is audible in your other monitoring radio. What they recommend you to do is, while you're keying up, they want you to reduce the pot all the way down till the tone goes away, and then they want you to increase the pot to the point where the tone remains constant, so it doesn't increase anymore. And once you reach that point, they want you to turn it back down just a notch. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So let's start with that. I'm gonna key up on Bofang, and you hear the tone on this FT1D. So that tone went away, so I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to key up again, and I'm going to increase the pot so that the tone doesn't increase anymore, and stop there. That seems like a good spot for me to stop, and now they want us to turn this back down just a notch. So I'm going to do that. So I think that's a good level, I think. So that's how you do the audio level for the transmit. I believe for the transmit delay, what they recommend we did is they want you to set the transmit delay through the software. There's a parameter called Tnc Pi params, or Tnc Pi underscore params, and there's a parameter called TX delay. They want you to set the value through the software. I've seen in my previous experience that I didn't need to mess with the transmit delay at all. So I just left it as is, and because it's controlled by the software by default, I let the software just do its thing, and I didn't have to mess with the transmit delay. So I'm going to leave that as is, okay? But if you really feel like you want to mess with it at the hardware level, I think there's some instruction in the manual where they say you have to set something to 0 and then go back to your pot and adjust it in the R6. But I'm just going to leave it as is because I'm not too concerned about the transmit delay, because I think the default works just fine. So anyway, so I thought I'd quickly show that, and hope that was useful. I'll see you back in part 3, and thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon.